Heyo. I just wanted to quickly give some initial impressions on the June update we just got. The June team update they released. I'm just a little I don't know why. This thought occurred to me. Just want to share it. I'm not sure why it took them 2 weeks of delays to basically. So they've done two things. There's two things that have changed from what they were originally going to do. One, they've added the stronghold research, which is the research in here for the honing. It gives you, better honing rates, less mat cost, whatever. So if you reach you reach 1460, you get the research from 1370 to 1415. So to get to from Argos to Legion Generals is like easier. And the other thing they did is they decided to not implement the Yaws jars. They're not doing, they didn't rework the system or anything. They're just not putting them in. My big thought was like, why? I just don't understand why it took 2 weeks to basically. So turning off the Yaws jars is just they just decided not to release it. You just don't put it in you just don't put it in the shop. I guess technically you don't make the skins break downable into the things, but you just don't turn on that system. Um, like I don't think that should have held up the patch for 2 weeks because I feel like you can make a post saying we're not sure about Yaw's jars yet, we're still accessing it, and we'll come back to you when we know what we're doing with it. Um, it's not that integrated of a system, and so it seems like they're delaying it to. Uh, it's just frustrating. They delayed the patch for 2 weeks in order to put in the honing buff, but you can just put the honing buff in a weekly patch. You can just release Vicus 2 weeks ago and put the honing buff in the weekly patch 2 weeks later. It just is very not concerning is not the right word. Just kind of frustrating that the two like very simple kind of things would delay the patch. Like you can just not release the Oz jars, be like okay, and then you can just release in like a mid-cycle patch and one of the weekly patches. I just don't. Vicus doesn't care if we have our fancy transmog or if we have the honing buff to get to Vulcan. It's just um some people I talked to thought, well, maybe there's other stuff going behind the scenes that caused a delay, and that's perfectly fine. And it's true that Yaws jars aren't a pure switch. You can't just not sell the Yaws jars. You have to like re-unentangle the whole like dismantling the skins thing. And I understand why it would take the extra time to put in the honing buff. Um, you've got to untangle. This wasn't originally put in with like the Vicus patch, I don't believe. I think it was put in with the Cuckoo patch maybe. In the original version. Either way, it's not naturally tied to this patch in the original code, so you do have to like untangle it and retangle it. I understand that that takes time, and if they made the decision, they saw all the feedback, and they're like, we need to ship this. They made the decision, kind of last minute that this needed to be in. That could take some time to put in. And I'm not saying either of these changes are bad. I think the honing buff's great. I think it's good. I think it'll really people really like it. I I want it in. And I think not putting the Yash jars in is also a pretty decent idea. It's kind of like the worst monetization system they have, and they've changed a lot of our other ones, so it seems like a good idea not to put it in. I just, what frustrates me is just why did it take 2 weeks? Why couldn't we just release Vicus and then, release this information 2 weeks later? It's like we said we weren't ready for Yash jars, and we decided we're not going to do it right now, and we're putting in the honing buff later. uh, it's just one of those things where you're just like, ugh, it's just a sigh. It's just like, whatever. I don't get why this had to hold everything up. It's just concerning that like either communication is that scuffed or I don't know. But that's just my some thoughts I had. It's just a little frustrating. Other than that, for people who haven't read this, we're getting like a compensation patch for the for the thing being delayed, for the patch being delayed. It's just some honing resources, some Makoko outfits, the standard stuff that they give out at events. I think low on summer is this weekend, so Korea's probably getting something similar anyway. This is probably just, same timing kind of thing either way. Only other time we're getting this the skin set they said we were gonna get, and then the non-Yas, and then they're putting in another one. I don't have the pictures up, but it's like more of a um the male ones look some of them look more like how to describe it? More like Shushire Northerner y. A lot of the female ones look kind of more steampunk, more Arthurtinian. But yeah, they're putting in a second skin set. We don't actually have the ones for some of the newer classes because it's an older skin set, like all the ones they've been releasing. Um, but yeah, it's just a little head scratchy and kind of frustrating that. And the other thing is just communication of this, like if we're like really kicking the patch down the road big time, like 2 whole weeks in order to put in like honing buffs, like that that's what you're working on. Like you could just post it 2 weeks ago that we want to put the honing buffs in. We're pushing the patch. This is not a bug. We ran into a bug and we couldn't implement something, and we're trying to desperately fix it. This is, oh, we're actually doing something different. You can tell us that. I don't know. It's just a little frustrating. I understand the Yazjar thing they wouldn't want to talk about because they're still actively making a decision. But like, if you release the patch, you can just say, "Sorry guys, Yazjars aren't with this patch. We're reconsidering the system. We're figuring out what we want to do with it." And then 2 weeks later, you come in. I don't know, a little frustrating, but they're not bad changes. They're good changes. I just don't think it was necessary to delay the patch 2 weeks for this. I think a little more agility in the ability to split up patches would be nice and would make for a better experience. And I mean, obvious communication is always something they have to work on. But either way, I hope you guys have a great day. I think these changes are good. I think Yaw's Jars were garbage. Um, but I don't know. Just wish it could have worked out a little more smoothly. Anyway, have a great day. I will see you guys later.